Social media is addictive. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? You've seen this? Social media platforms are designed in various ways to keep you online as long as possible and keep you coming back for more. They work kind of like slot machines. Also,
what's the deal with airplane food?
Talking about the addictive and deleterious nature of social media is a well-worn subject. I feel like that's fair to say. And it tends to go a little something like this. Because social media platforms get their money through advertisement, because they seek profit at all, they engineer their service to be as addictive as possible to maximize the amount of attention we give to them, to disastrous personal and societal effects. If Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and the like are our mental prisons, then the algorithm is our warden, and it's all designed by technocrats who would burn the earth for just a little extra money. And to be fair, that's exactly what they're doing. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking you've heard this all before. Just another video about how phone's bad, ugh, capitalism, like and subscribe. Not today, sir. No, not. I mean, I would like you to like and subscribe. It's the only way I can continue to exist in the impish spectral form you see before you. But these days, I'm a little more interested in what we can actually do about the attention economy. Not an easy nut to crack, as I am sure you well know. And the situation is complicated by the fact that there's still something pretty special about being online. Check it out, Fred is back. Hey, Fred, how you doing? What's going on? God, I love Fred. The internet kind of feels like the internal monologue of the world. It shares the same sort of dreamlike syntax of interior thought, all those id-driven voices competing for each other. It's the vast digital ocean of a collective subconscious. To wit, what you see before you is my diver's suit. Not the real me, but the avatar that I used to scuba my way into your hearts and minds, all in a bid to contribute, however infinitesimally, to human history. Put simply, to say that I was here, and also to look for gold. If I want to keep diving, it has to be done. All of this is to say, the internet isn't all bad. I certainly love it. And it's not like you could put anything back in Pandora's box anyway, so yeah, we're in a tricky situation when it comes to improving the place. What do we do about the attention economy? What do we do about the addiction and the malnourishment that it encourages? In order for my answers to that to make any sense, you're gonna have to understand something about the internet that I think often gets overlooked. So let's talk about thought-terminating heuristics.
Give me the camera. Give me the feed. Give me the money.
Don't worry, diagnosing the problem is not going to be the extent of this video. I do plan on giving you concrete ways to resist the attention economy both privately and publicly while still being an online person. You can have your cake and eat it too, kind of. I just need to give you the right context for that, otherwise this will all just wash over you like the rest of the content on your feed. And I don't think that's actually what you want. That's just what you and I are trained to want. Like, I'm not a cow, you know? I don't want to feed, I want to eat. There's a difference. So let's talk about what a heuristic is. Basically, it's just a cognitive strategy you employ to make satisfactory decisions. If you work in marketing, you've definitely heard the term. Those little marketing fuckers. The best and shortest definition I can find is this.
A heuristic is a rule of thumb used to reason and decide under conditions of limited cognitive resources. It trades away cognitive perfection in return for speed and ease of use. It is a cognitive shortcut, imperfect, but fast.
Oh yeah, this video has quotes and citations, and therefore, it must mean that this video is well researched and I know what I'm talking about. See that right there? That logic, that's a heuristic. The cheaper the product, the worse the quality. Therefore, you get what you pay for. That's another heuristic. This man has a degree, therefore he must be trustworthy. Say it with me now. You can immediately see a problem with heuristics, right? They're incredibly fallible, vulnerable to misinformation. And while the topic of misinformation on the internet gets a lot of play, when we talk about it, I think we mostly get it wrong. Follow me for a second. Misinformation discourse often points out that all these very important things require considered, rational, and critical thought. But we know that's not how most people operate, especially on the internet. And we assume that it must be because of these reasons. This right here is why we supposedly rely on heuristics instead of good old critical thinking, the cognitive vice of the masses. We're an idiocracy. If only we valued rationality more in society, things would be different, right? Well, maybe not. I posit to you that even for the most educated and smartest among us, it's kind of physically impossible to be a rational, critical thinker, even like most of the time. C.T. Nguyen, you know, the guy from before, points out that our rationality isn't just bound to these things, it's also bound by our limited energy and time. And now you can maybe see how the attention economy plays into this. Well, who's got the energy and who's got the friggin' time? The world is too big, and with the internet we're exposed to and aware of so much of that bigness. We can't possibly critically interrogate every new thing that comes across our mind desks, so to speak. Not even for things that are directly relevant to our own lives. Do you look up the medical background of every single doctor you see? Are all your opinions based on primary sources? Do you even read theory, bro, or do you just watch video essays about it? Now, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, because not fully investigating things isn't inherently shameful, since it's an absolute physical necessity to just get through the day. We are not limitless. We are not God. Well, I am, but you're not. So that seal on the egg carton that says humane certified looks official enough. The Google reviews of this endocrinologist are probably on point. And I'm sure that this 4-hour YouTube summary of the conquest of bread is mostly accurate. I mean, we think of these things as like cognitive sins, but they're more so just examples of time and energy management. Obviously, a world in which people value critical thinking more would be a better one, but it wouldn't change our fundamental limitations as human beings. Don't worry, this isn't going to be some boomer-pilled rant about misinformation online. I just wanted to place one piece of the attention economy puzzle that we often leave out. Rather than misinformation, this is about the internet reaching out to you, running its soft, supple electric fingers along the folds of your brain and slowly edging your mind toward the unremitting bliss of clarity and righteousness. Stick with me, okay? I just need a little more of that sweet, juicy attention of yours. Because the attention economy, and even myself as a player in it, is looking to seduce you in a very particular way. I'm probably doing it to you right now, whether even I want to or not, because there is a heuristic that seemingly everyone on this earth employs, and it goes like this. When I have a sense of clarity, I understand enough. The feeling of clarity, the pleasure of an epiphany signals to us that what we know of a topic will suffice just fine. And to be fair, there's solid logic there. When you actually do understand something, you probably have a sense of clarity about it. So when we stumble upon that feeling like everything is finally starting to make sense, we get this pleasurable relief from our confusion and uncertainty. And that's where we stop, at the climax, so to speak. The clarity heuristic isn't just logical, it's resplendent and decadent. What a burst of mental ecstasy when you have your eureka moment. What a release of tension when you finally have clarity. Like, am I being too subtle with this metaphor? So if something triggers this clarity heuristic, say a YouTube video that makes us feel like we're learning, we're not just less likely to vet its sources, we're more inclined to unconsciously reject new contradicting evidence on the subject because it messes with the pleasure of our sense of clarity. We are being trained by the attention economy to revel in catharsis. That's your rabbit hole, your filter bubble, your echo chamber. But this video isn't really about those things either. You know plenty about that stuff already. I just needed to point out that flawed and fallible reasoning is both, one, a human necessity, and two, deeply seductive to the point that we don't even realize it when we're engaging in it.
Sort of nice, isn't it?
And when you plug all of that into the attention economy, it rewires our brains toward thought-terminating pleasure, convincing us that we're learning and becoming more educated. In a way we are, but it's like each new path forward, you shut down another one. You and I are not exempt from this because we value critical thinking or operate under an anti-capitalist framework. But this is only one small piece of the puzzle. So keep the seduction of clarity in the back of your mind because we've got to move on. After all, I do have to keep your attention. Now, we've got to talk about the intimacy machine. Okay, so we call it the attention economy, but more than just your attention, social media platforms want your engagement. That's what ultimately translates to dollar signs. So in order to understand the intimacy machine, you've got to understand something about the algorithm that's designed to capture engagement specifically. Even though that algorithm is being deployed by platforms for the sake of profit, it has no line of code about money in it. It's just trying to maximize behavioral outcome. And it just so happens that one of the things that make us truly want to engage is intimacy. Except not all intimacy feels good. Not all intimacy is loving. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. If the seduction of pleasure and clarity keep us coming back to platforms, then so do other closely related pleasures. Like finding community over shared beliefs or a shared context. Being online is great for finding like-minded people. I mean, it's literally what happens every time someone hits a like button. And when people begin to follow and subscribe to you, it can give you the sense that you have your own community. Like this group of people gets you. Hi guys. And even though we all know that whatever you post online is incredibly public, I mean, unless you're super internet get famous, it just doesn't feel that way. At least not until something you say blows up. So when we tweet a joke, in our minds, we're only really tweeting to our followers or anyone else out there who might be one of us. We forget that all it takes is one retweet by someone who doesn't understand the shared context of the people you're trying to connect with to turn you into the center of platform-wide discourse. This is called context collapse, and if you've been following me on my channel, you've heard me talk about it before. In our search for intimacy, for the pleasure of being understood and accepted, we are, by design of these platforms, likely to be misunderstood, and then used as fodder for another much darker kind of intimacy and connection that is encouraged on social media. The fight, the drag, the cancel. Because when you and the boys gang up on someone on Twitter, at some undisclosed hour of the morning, probably 2 a.m., it feels intimate. You're connecting as a group. Whether or not you've got the moral high ground, you're all ganging up on someone. Keyword gang. The viciousness of dunking is a form of group bonding. And there's even sometimes a sort of intimacy between the dunker and the dunked. For instance, wanting to insult someone comes from a deeply personal place. It's a bid for your words to connect on an emotional level with the person that you're insulting, in part so you can be recognized. And that's pretty intimate. If you want to put someone down, in a sense, you want to feel the softness of their neck give under the heel of your boot. Similarly, if you're the one feeling the weight of a boot, you don't want to disengage or walk away, even if you could. You want to clap back, you want to engage, and rightfully so. But no matter the moral context of our desire to fight in any given situation, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's impersonal or not, it results in connection. That is the intimacy machine. The vicious cycle, the abusive relationship with the platform itself is the addictive thing about all of this. It's not just the bright colors or the intrusive notification icons or the numbers going up. It's the inconsistent pain and pleasure of various forms of intimacy, the vulnerability of being online itself that keeps us coming back. People spinning slot machines at the same dopamine levels when they lose as when they win. He hit me and it felt like a kiss. And this phenomenon is very closely connected to the potato chip. Ever have a potato chip? Of course I have. How about you, Fred? You ever eat potato chips? I personally don't like them, but whenever I eat them, I can't stop because they're not actually very satisfying. There's like this engaging taste, but they leave me feeling empty and wanting. So I have another chip. I'll eat a whole bag, feel absolutely horrible afterwards, and honestly, I didn't even enjoy the taste all that much. Chips are maximally addictive in the same way social media is, and that's by design. Yes, I am riffing on that viral TikTok that described this as the Dorito theory. And speaking of TikTok, this is why you love it. Both the unpredictability of your reward for spinning the social media slot machine and the fact that each video leaves you half satisfied, regardless of whether you kind of liked it or not, is the thing that keeps you engaged. The infinite scroll is the potato chip. The Twitter clapback is the potato chip. The whole fucking thing is a potato chip. And since we're talking about potato chips, we might as well talk about food content in general. Because food content is deeply connected to moral philosophy, which is our next subject. I said what I said.
Okay, I always spank my dough. Who's your daddy?
So food content's pretty weird when you start to think about it. To me, it could represent the perfect distillation of how we can fall into rewiring our own brains, even when the content itself isn't inherently harmful. Okay, so it goes like this. Ostensibly, most cooking content is there to be educational in some form, right? It might be giving you a recipe and showing you how to cook it, or maybe it's teaching you about different cultures and different approaches to food. But that's not always the main draw. I've watched plenty of YouTube videos for recipes that I have not and will never cook, and I really enjoyed them. For the same reason why you can look at pictures of decadent, artfully presented dishes and get some satisfaction from it. There's a pleasure in the consumption of a thing at a distance. See, now I don't know if it tastes good, but I like that it looks good. Specifically, it's the pleasure of the thing without having to do the thing. I can enjoy cooking without actually having to cook. I can enjoy the food without actually having to eat it or buy it. This quality of pleasure is what C.T. Nguyen says we're referring to when we call different types of content. Now, I actually want this video to be seen, so I probably had to bleep that last word out. I'm saying rhymes with corn, house porn, organization porn, food porn. This definition really makes a lot of sense to me. And I think food content creators, especially of short form content, have long recognized this sort of relationship that we can develop with their content in general. And it kind of comes out in weird ways.
Persian milk bread, or sheer mo.
Welcome back to my OnlyFans. I hope you're hungry, babe, because today we are making carrot cake.
Okay, so this kind of stuff completely wrinkles my brain, and I'll tell you why. If adult entertainment is the pleasure of being intimate with someone without actually having to be with someone, then this is the pleasure of adult entertainment without having to watch adult entertainment. This isn't an ad for OnlyFans. This is it. This is the whole thing. And that's in addition to the fact that it's also giving us the joy of food and cooking without the food and the cooking. These videos also have no recipes in the description. It has no real pretense, no matter where you look. I mean, I don't want to be the Jean Baudrillard guy, but like, you would love this. It's like peak hyperreality. However, the most important thing to understand about this kind of content is that it maximizes and simplifies your pleasure of what's being represented, while also keeping you from doing what's being represented. Now, keep that in your head for a second, because I want to be clear. It's not that I think this kind of content is inherently bad. I personally believe that almost anything is fine under moderation. But the whole thing about social media platforms and their algorithms is they're not designed to give you things in healthy doses. It neither moderates well, nor does it set you up to succeed in your own moderation. It does the complete opposite. Okay, so obviously some of the food content I've shown you in this section of the video is specifically developed to pander to certain kinks, regardless of whether or not it links out to more explicit content. My point isn't that this kind of stuff is all there is to food content, or that, you know, this is all that food content is right now. It's just that this kind of content really underscores how we can develop a certain relationship with any media that gives us pleasure at a distance, even if that media isn't using sex to sell. That certain relationship that we can develop is one of a simplified, alienated, inactive pleasure with the subject that it depicts. In this case, cooking, or, you know, a particular kink. And I'm belaboring the point so that you also understand that I'm not being negative about adult content. And also, I'm just not going to tolerate any like sexist or anti-sex work notions in the comment section, so just don't bother typing it, okay? The creators and the content that I've shown you, I think is largely fine. It's the machine that it's plugged into that I've got the real problem with, because the machine wants to obliterate your ability to moderate like anything that you can consume. In the attention economy, anything can be turned into metaphorical junk food. And eating junk food is a nice treat, even spiritually healthy. It can open up your world. But something is wrong if you can conjure it up with like the flick of a thumb. And I know you've heard that before too, but follow me for a bit. We've been talking about food porn and how it alienates you from food while giving you the pleasure of engaging with it. So what about moral outrage porn? Okay, so some important things right off the bat. Moral outrage is good. Okay, it's a good thing, and I would never suggest otherwise. I myself experience quite a lot of it. Righteous anger is beautiful and precious because it lets us know when something is wrong and that we need to fix it. But there's a certain type of painful enjoyment to moral outrage. God, is this video like my horny on main moment? Now, outrage, that's all pain and sadness, but the sense of being morally right is kind of nice. Why is that? Well, remember the clarity heuristic. If I think I'm right, I have a pleasurable sense of clarity, and I'm less likely to challenge my understanding of a moral situation because I'm tempted to use that sense of clarity as a signal that I know all that I need to know. And honestly, maybe I do. Having a sense of clarity about your own morals isn't a bad thing. So moral outrage is very good. It's just that the natural, normal, healthy pleasure in being morally upstanding is easily hacked by online content and algorithms. In other words, the attention economy. We might genuinely care and genuinely want to fix things, but our brains are slowly being massaged into a pornographic relationship with content that makes us outraged, which means we start seeking out moral clarity over moral outcomes. We begin to prioritize the feeling of being right over actually doing what's right. It's the pleasure of the thing without doing the thing. So let's unpack how you and I are both maybe a little guilty of this. Personally, I find it very difficult to engage with other people who have the same moral outrage as I do, but who have completely different ideas about what to do about that injustice, which is normal. It's a frustrating thing, in part because it screws with my sense of clarity. That makes my moral outrage less digestible, less consumable. What is the right thing to do? Instead, I find it much easier and more immediately gratifying to just write off that other person as holistically bad or stupid. See, that approach preserves my sense of clarity while also simplifying my sense of right and wrong. Because if I do that enough times, it trains my brain to start thinking that anyone who disagrees with my solutions can't be someone who shares my moral principles. Otherwise, we'd be in total agreement, right? Random thought, I wonder why there's so much leftist infighting online. And to be clear, I am not calling for civility here. Civility content can fall into the same trap and become yet another kind of moral outrage. I can spend all my time online posting and engaging with content that righteously declares that everyone simmer down, reach across the aisle, and converse respectfully without actually ever doing the work to create the civility that I crave, the pleasure of the thing without doing the thing. And here's the other danger. Outrage is something that inherently makes you want to engage, which is good, but the attention economy is all about capturing engagement. Social media platforms give you that opportunity. It says, here, look at this horrible thing, now tweet about it. Our natural desire to create righteous outcomes in the real world gets routed back into the platform and then is diffused. And we don't even realize it's happening in the moment. We're being robbed of our anima, being convinced that winning arguments on Twitter is worth our time and the appropriate response to injustice. It's certainly the easiest one, definitely the path of least resistance, except it leaves me feeling cold and addicted and lonely. The pleasure of clarity doesn't ever wash away the pain of the fact that clearly all this dunking doesn't seem to be moving the needle. And then the algorithm keeps feeding me infuriating takes because it can measure that those are the ones that I engage with the most, and it starts to feel like the whole world is just black and white and kind of hopeless. America is cooked. The world is cooked. Might as well just keep scrolling. I mean, none of this is working. I mean, just do whatever. I don't care. I don't care. Okay, I'm done bumming you out. Let's talk about some solutions. The very popular and eminently art-concerned YouTuber CJ the X penned a very good essay on the subject, and I highly recommend that you read it. Now don't worry, I'm going to be providing my own special little ideas about what to do about the mess we're in, but I'd like to respond to a core assumption of CJ's essay first. In other words, I got a hot take.
Advertisers pay to display their ads wherever conscious human beings are looking, and the more people are looking, the more advertisers are willing to pay. Therefore, it is financially beneficial for the advertiser-reliant social media platform to make their app inherently addictive, and to make it feel a seamless extension of reality.
I don't disagree. The advertiser model, and even more broadly, the profit motive itself, incentivizes unhealthy and addictive design. But I'm not so sure that removing those things from the equation would actually fix the situation that we're in. Now, don't kick me and Fred out of the leftist club, okay? Look, I took the test and I am here. This is my identity now. This is what makes me valid. Not just as an intellectual, but as a human being. You know, if you don't have a label, you don't really exist. I am just a simple neo-anarcho-reactionist hell-bent on destroying Hegelian e-girl summer. Now, do I think eliminating the advertisement model will help our internet situation? Abso-fucking-lutely. But my proposition is that the fundamental issue is the nature of algorithms themselves, whether or not they're attuned to making profit or maximizing attention. It's those damned robots, baby! And here's why. Liking something, a tweet, a meme, a video, a show, a movie, a game, is a qualitative thing. There are so many different ways to like or enjoy something, so many different reasons why you might be grateful for an experience. I mean, I can hate something but be better off for having seen it. I could like something and be worse off for having seen it. Sometimes I like stuff because it's fun and stupid, and sometimes I like stuff because it's deep and rich and challenging. Some things I love but I only want to see once, and some things I want to see a lot but it's not healthy for me to do so. And still other things I'm not sure I know how I feel about them, but I'm glad I experienced them all the same. And sometimes I'm just swiping down an infinite scroll thinking, I'm not actually enjoying this. My relationship to any given piece of content, as well as my overall content diet, now how much am I watching and how do the individual pieces of content relate to each other within that system, has a quality that can't be expressed in numbers. No amount of sophistication from an algorithm can ever capture the ineffable, intangible, ethereal experience of engagement, such as, but not limited to, enjoying something that another human being made. Algorithms cannot work with qualitative data. They are quantitative by nature. Actually, I'm wrong. See, you can't always trust everything that you hear from me. You gotta stay frosty. It's me, it's editing Chris, and I want to set the record straight. Saying that algorithms are fundamentally quantitative is a bad way to express what I'm trying to communicate to you. And saying that they can't work with qualitative data is just flat out wrong. Algorithmic processes, and more broadly AI, can and often do work with and analyze qualitative data. But what I really meant to point out in this section is that regardless of the data sets an algorithm is operating on, quantitative or qualitative, it can't do inductive analysis of that data. So what does that mean? So if you're working with quantitative data, you're working with numbers. Qualitative data describes characteristics, qualities, experiences that can't be represented by numbers. You get data like this from things like surveys or focus groups or behavioral observation. AI and algorithms can work with both. It just can't read in between the lines, and that's what I was actually trying to say. It can't interpret or intuit the why behind the information that it has, qualitative or quantitative. It can't develop a theory or concept behind your actions online. That is what is called inductive analysis. So to recap and revise, when I say that algorithms are inherently quantitative, what I really mean is that they're inherently deductive in their reasoning rather than inductive. They are limited to processes that have no intuition, no true understanding. In short, algorithms can't do a vibe check, but humans can. You can't teach an algorithm to love. And you shouldn't. You can't teach it to be passionate. It has no anima. It will forever and always measure your behavior, not your feelings or your well-being. So it's absurd to think that you can be embraced by it lovingly if you just recalibrate its priorities away from profit. Trying to get the algorithm to serve us what we actually like, what we actually need, what is actually healthy, would be like grasping at the human soul in binary, trying to catch a cloud with a butterfly net. Basically, the internet is a fancy art gallery and post office. That's it. So if we're all suffering under its algorithmic curation and moderation, the answer is pretty simple. Difficult, but simple. Human curation and moderation. The benefits of which will be apparent to any of you who might subscribe to a favorite movie or video game critic. Critics present you with content that they think is either good or bad, and then you use that information to determine whether or not you want to figuratively or literally click on that content. You will never completely agree with your favorite critic, but you can trust them to have their own taste, and so you can make decisions accordingly. You might learn a critic or curator's taste so you know what to avoid, or so you know what to try despite the fact that it didn't look good to you initially. But algorithms do not have opinions. They don't have taste. It's never going to recommend you something because it finds it fascinating, or because it thinks you really like it, or because it really likes it and it wants you to know it better. So the first small step in resisting the attention economy is to engage with human curation as much as possible. Practice the art of the playlist. Make a playlist of videos or music for your friends or family, specifically so you can find the Venn diagram of their tastes and yours. And if you want a tip to make your playlist better, choose just one piece from each artist. It keeps the playlist concise and directed, and the pain of having to choose just one will genuinely be good for you. And also try to prioritize engaging with human-created playlists on the platforms that do host them. I do think there is a place for algorithms in content delivery so long as they aren't the primary driver of that content delivery. Coders and techies, I don't know, what does a platform like that look like? Just sound off in the comments. But that's just step one, and like I said, it's a small step. Another side to all of this is that the attention economy doesn't just capture your attention, it scatters it across a great many things, making your consumption shallow. You seek out constant stimulation, playing games on your phone as you watch TV, switching back and forth between YouTube videos on your open tabs when you get just a little bored. The attention economy recalibrates your attention seeking to be more surface level, and that stays with you even as you log off. It becomes harder to sit with your thoughts, to give your undivided attention to even things that you're interested in. In Jenny Odell's book, How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy, she points out that online information networks have the overall effect of masking the context of both space and time. In other words, on a single feed, you're likely to see news about a number of different highly unrelated things. A video of Israel bombing Gaza, a call to action to donate to a climate non-profit, a funny joke about the latest Trump scandal, a YouTube creator's merch is now on sale, and probably something about a cat.
Scrolling through the feed, I can't help but wonder, what am I supposed to think of all this? How am I supposed to think of all this? I imagine different parts of my brain lighting up in a pattern that doesn't make sense, that forecloses any possible understanding. Many things in there seem important, but the sum total is nonsense, and it produces not understanding, but a dull and stupefying dread.
Spatial and temporal context help us stay grounded and understand a thing. So the answer to regaining that context and winning back control of your thoughts is to practice what she calls paying deep attention. And the good news is, there are so many ways to do this. I will give you 3. Okay, so the first one is maybe touch some grass. Don't. I have to do my due diligence here. And I know this is a video about resisting the attention economy while remaining online, but I need to at least stress to you that you fucking need vitamin D from the literal sun. It genuinely makes you happier. So if you haven't got enough of that, you really got to just think of like nature and being outside as the safest way to experience the horrible intrusive thoughts you're desperately trying to avoid. All right, but let's move on. You've probably heard this next one too, but I'm telling you guys, this is the stuff. This is the sauce. Stop multitasking your content. No playing games as you watch Blade Runner. Okay, it's fucking Blade Runner and it's awesome. I don't care if I'm a basic bitch. It's a great movie. And when you think you understand it, think about it some more, okay? Push past your clarity heuristic. A fun way to do this is to assume that everything about the art you watched was intentional and perfectly executed. In other words, if the acting in the movie was bad, assume it was bad on purpose. Or if the story was confusing and full of plot holes, just pretend that was intentional too. Now, analyze it again. Is it still bad? Why or why not? Doing this with the content that you watch or read or play will make you feel full and satisfied, like eating a steak as opposed to eating potato chips. Another way to practice deep attention is to not just do it with nature or with content, but with your own life. Go through your camera roll. Start from the beginning and just keep going. Get to know your own voice through the moments that you found valuable enough to capture. And when you find good ones, don't post any of them, okay? They're not for the public, they're for you. But Chris, I hear you say, these solutions aren't actual solutions. They're mostly just self-help advice about shoring up our own perspicacity and mental fortitude in an online world.
I'm losing my perspicacity!
That doesn't help us change the attention economy itself. To which I say, don't worry, baby, I got you covered. So here's where I have to give yet another nod to CJ the X.
How do we use social media to make connections, while not relying on it to sustain and mediate those connections? The answer seems to involve a return to Web 1.0 sensibilities. Independent websites, newsletters, blogs, email. Human-to-human contact, zero intermediary advertisers. We don't need new solutions. We just need to use the ones we already have.
This? I fucking like this. The idea is to see how much humanity we can inject back into the process of socializing online. Instead of turning your thoughts into tweets, write a blog, send an email, gather your online besties, and engage in more direct, localized forms of communication. Are there platform features that we could just bypass by providing those features ourselves? So for instance, if you're a creator, that might look like amassing your following and then taking them off platform to your own website or newsletter, which is the primary notification function for websites like Patreon or Substack. Websites and emails are two things that don't demand anyone's engagement, but exist as an option for engagement should you wish. I, for one, am working on building my own little website for this exact purpose. So if you like me, you'll be able to find me and all the little art things that I do at an address that isn't so gross and toxic. For a more detailed set of ideas on how we can help establish a Web 1.5 vibe, I again point you to the essay I've been so heavily quoting. They literally wrote it as a manifesto. It's good shit. But Chris, I hear you interject yet again. That doesn't seem like enough to really revolutionize how the online economy works. I need more. I need, dare I say, politics. You little sicko. Fine, here's your politics. Kill Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996. See, I bet you didn't think I was gonna get that specific, did you? I mean, sure, by all means, overthrow catapultism. I'm down for that too. But in the meantime, Section 230 has got to go. Basically, it provides immunity to online platforms from civil liability with regards to what they publish. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and the like are publishers, after all. They don't create the product that makes them money. You and I do. They're the newspaper and we're the journalists, so to speak. And yet, unlike newspapers, platforms are not legally responsible for anything that they distribute, publish, or emphasize. This is ultimately what allows them to base their business plan on paid access and influence rather than the merit and veracity of the content that they publish. It's also what allows platforms to extract our personal data without paying us. Our content and trackable online behavior is the product and we don't see a dime. Sounds like in addition to throwing Section 230 in the trash bin, we might want to unionize. Now, unionizing wouldn't directly address the attention economy, but it would allow us to be compensated fairly and could additionally give us the means to alter the modes of online production. Of course, way easier said than done. And getting rid of Section 230 is not a solution without its potential problems, but it's a much more attainable immediate political goal that I could see bringing some real benefit. Which brings me to my final point. I'm a total hypocrite, mainly because I'm lecturing myself just as much as I'm lecturing you. In fact, I think that just about every creator that gives you advice honestly is also low-key giving themselves that same advice. I'm just trying to point out that I'm talking to you from a soapbox, not a pedestal. And sure, I like the soapbox, it's pretty cool. And I'm gonna keep making videos and existing online because I like art and making things and I want it to be my job. Embarrassing to admit, but yeah, I want it to be my job. And I'm a hypocrite because I want you to hit all the good buttons for me and subscribe to my Patreon. I just don't want it to come at the expense of your soul or mine. Doing this has provided me with lots of great experiences and connections and even a few buddies, but not community. Community has to be actively built, and I think that happens mostly off platform. And I want to try doing that, so I'm gonna invite you to do this last suggestion with me. What's the one app you keep going back to even though you know it's terrible for you? The one cesspool that you just can't stop visiting. The one that you know that you're most addicted to. Delete it. Delete it. You don't need it to be online. You don't need it at all. DM who you gotta DM, but then get the hell out and don't look back. That's what I'm gonna do anyway. And you can do it with me. Okay, so actually I was about to delete my Twitter for this video and it was gonna be like this awesome mic drop moment and everything. And then I saw that, okay, you guys, follows me. He's a funny guy with some good videos and lots of followers. And I swear to you, viewer, upon learning this fact, I was like, should I delete Twitter? Witness the brain rot. I don't even tweet. I don't even tweet about my videos when they release anymore. There's no clout to be gained here, no change in conditions that could justify me choosing a different path for the end of this video, and yet I hesitated. But this is what it does. It makes you feel like you need it. Like you're just one slot machine spin away from what exactly? Parasocial validation? Gross. Oh God, this shit's not healthy. Okay, fuck it, here we go. Human vinegar. God, it really makes me sick. I don't like that at all.